Good afternoon. It's Monday, the 19th of January. I'm Erin Viner, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. We open with shocking developments in Argentina today and the death of the state prosecutor Alberto Nisman by a gunshot wound to the head just hours before he was set to testify before lawmakers about his accusations that President Cristina Fernandez orchestrated a campaign of deception to whitewash Iran's role in the 1994 bombing of the Jewish Community Center that killed 85 people. 51-year-old Nisman has been demanding that the president and foreign minister, Hector Timmerman, be interrogated for being accomplices in not only an aggravated cover-up, but also the obstruction of justice for having opened a secret back channel to 5 Iranians and 1 Lebanese national suspected of carrying out the attack. It was all part of a scheme, Nisman argued, to clear the suspects and normalize relations with Iran. After being alerted by security guards that they were unable to contact her son, Nisman's mother had a locksmith open the locked front door of his 13th-story apartment and discovered his body lying in a pool of blood in the bathroom near a gun and a bullet casing. Nisman was set to address a closed-door hearing before Congress today over his allegations against the president and the foreign minister. An autopsy to determine the cause of his death is underway. Officials in Jerusalem released a statement mourning the death and described Nisman as a brave and prominent jurist who fought for justice and worked with great resolve to expose the truth behind the 1994 terrorist attack. Israel also expressed the hope that the Argentinian authorities will continue with Nisman's activities. And now moving to the northern border, which is on alert following vows from Hezbollah to retaliate for yesterday's attack on one of its cells in the Syrian-controlled Golan Heights that reportedly killed the son of Imad Mughniyeh and 5 others, including Iranian General Mohammad Ali al-Adadi. IBA's Aryeh O'Sullivan reports.
The border between Israel, Lebanon, and Syria is tense. IDF forces are deployed, ready to respond to any possible attack. United Nations peacekeepers, too, are monitoring the frontier, which can flare up at any moment. Yesterday afternoon, an Israeli aircraft reportedly fired 2 missiles at 2 vehicles near Quneitra, killing Jihad Mounia, another top Hezbollah commander, and an Iranian officer, possibly a brigadier general from the Revolutionary Guards. Al-Manar TV confirmed the incident, saying they were on a reconnaissance mission. Jerusalem has neither confirmed nor denied the attack. Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon said that Israel was always being blamed for events happening in the region, but added that Hezbollah chief Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah had only last week said Hezbollah was not operating in Syria, so he had some explaining to do. Western intelligence sources reportedly said the Hezbollah cell was planning an attack on Israeli soldiers and civilians on the Golan Heights. Reports from Lebanon a few months ago said that the 25-year-old Jihad Mounia had been appointed the head of Hezbollah's Golan division as it expanded its operations into Syrian territory. Dubbed the Prince, Jihad Mounia posed as a defiant young man at the funeral of his father, Imad Mounia, Hezbollah's chief of military operations, who was killed in a mysterious car bombing in Damascus in 2008. "We take your path. We won't leave the cause. We won't leave the weapons," the young son declared. In Beirut, Hezbollah officials have told Lebanese media that the strike by Israel would have dramatic consequences. Belligerent threats. But defense analysts say Hezbollah, which is heavily invested in helping bolster Assad's regime in Syria against the rebels, was reluctant to open another conventional front against the powerful Israel, which means Hezbollah's Shia vengeance could be extracted outside of Israel's borders in an effort to restore a new balance of deterrence with the Jewish state. Aryeh O'Sullivan for IBA News.
The government is lobbying member states of the International Criminal Court in a bid to convince them to cut funding to the ICC if it proceeds with an inquiry into allegations that IDF forces committed war crimes in Gaza last summer. At a press conference with Canadian Foreign Minister John Baird yesterday afternoon, Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman said that the court's decision to probe the issue makes a mockery of international law.
We think that it's completely unacceptable that a terrorist organization like Hamas will be able to file a lawsuit against Israel. And all of us will remember that Hamas used their own civilians as a shield to launch missiles on civilian population in Israel. It's like to make a mockery of international law, and your position as one of the founders of ICC, it's very important, maybe crucial. And we think that if we will not see a real dramatic change in their position, we will ask from all our friends to stop any funding of ICC.
I reiterated Canada's opposition to the Palestinian Authority's actions both at the UN Security Council and with the International Criminal Court. Canada is very clear that these provocative unilateral actions will not contribute to peace and security in the region. We also strongly support Israel's right to defend itself by itself, and we will play our part to help defend it from international efforts to delegitimize the State of Israel, including the deeply misguided attempts to boycott, divestment, and sanctions.
President Reuven Rivlin is also jumping into the fray over the International Criminal Court. During separate meetings with Canadian Foreign Minister Baird and visiting U.S. Senator John McCain, Rivlin urged the Palestinians to resume peace talks instead of pursuing efforts at the ICC and the United Nations against Israel. Rivlin emphasized that only direct negotiations and not unilateral steps can lead to a resolution of the conflict.
The decision of the prosecution of the ICC is a little bit, I would say, in understatement, cynic. It is our duty as a nation, it is our duty as a state, it is our duty as a responsibility to the people of Israel. It's not only our right to protect them, but it is our duty to do so. And to say something which is against the, it is actually a blasphemy of the idea of international law and the law that goes between people and between states.
In Canada, had you had 5,500, 10,000 rockets fired at civilian populations, the Canadian people would have one single expectation from their government: to make it stop. And I agree totally with your comment that states have not just the right, but have an obligation to protect their people. And that's why we stand so firmly with Israel. The real method behind the madness of the decision to go to the ICC is Israel, in the court of public opinion, already has one hand tied firmly behind its back, and we will not allow the international community to tie the other hand as well. That would be wrong.
A 33-year-old Algerian is being brought before an Athens prosecutor today as part of a request from Brussels for his extradition over possible links to the Islamist plot to attack Belgian police thwarted earlier this week. The suspect was picked up as part of a Greek police raid based on a checklist provided by an international security coordinator. A Belgian official explained the reasoning behind the extradition request.
Yesterday afternoon, our investigation gave us some elements which led us to believe that one of the two persons who were arrested in Athens the day before yesterday was involved in our case. So based on those elements, we asked for the extradition of that man to Belgium.
The European Union is appealing the ruling from the bloc's General Court in December that ordered the removal of Hamas from its terrorist blacklist because it found the inclusion was based on media reports and not considered analysis. Foreign ministers from 28 member states challenged the decision this morning on procedural grounds. For the time being, as a result of the appeal, the Palestinian group will stay on the EU terrorism list and its assets will remain frozen pending final judgment from the European Court of Justice. Turning to the Knesset election, and one newly recruited politician is in trouble over a verbal faux pas. A veteran leader in his faction appeared to be finished, and two more parties are finalizing their Knesset lists today. With more is IBA's political correspondent Ellie Wogelenter.
We'll start with that famous law of political science. Sometimes it's just better to keep your mouth shut. But Yoav Gallant is new to politics, so maybe he didn't get the memo yet. The former IDF general running for Knesset with the Kulanu party had to backpedal today after he said that the alleged Israeli attack on Hezbollah personnel was ordered out of political considerations and not just due to security concerns. From incidents in the past, you learn that sometimes there is timing that is not unrelated to the topic of elections, he told Channel 2. Gallant backtracked today, saying, without referring to one attack or another, I in no way think that there is a connection between foreign reports on the attack and the elections. Criticisms of Gallant's comments were issued by politicians across the political spectrum. Zionist camp leaders Isaac Herzog and Tzipi Livni issued a statement expressing confidence that orders to carry out the strike were given by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for purely operational reasons and were not an attempt to influence the upcoming elections. And Likud MK Ofer Akunis said it's better for new candidates without political experience to watch their words. Moshe Kachlon would do well to calm down Mr. Gallant. Kachlon picked Gallant just 11 days ago to join the party. Meanwhile, it appears that former Defense Minister Shaul Mofaz's political career may have hit a dead end. The Kadima chairman announced today that he will not join the Zionist camp party headed by Herzog and Livni as talks to merge his failing party with Labor collapsed. It appears that Mofaz made the decision because he was not offered a high position on the list or Minister of Defense if they were to win enough seats. His move likely spells the end of the Kadima party, originally founded in November 2005 by former Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. With Mofaz out of the picture, the security figure joining Labor is likely to be former IDF intelligence chief Amos Yadlin, director of Tel Aviv University's Institute for National Security Studies. Yadlin said he had been in touch with Labor and other parties, but nothing had been finalized. Over in Meretz, the 1,000-member Central Committee is voting today for the party's list, with the results expected to be announced at 11 o'clock tonight. There are 23 candidates who are running for the first 5 spots on the list, including 4 of the current 6 MKs. MK Nitzan Horowitz's announcement last month that he would not seek re-election to the party's list gives a non-incumbent a better chance of making it into the top 5 and into the Knesset. Zahava Galon, whom the Central Committee re-elected party leader earlier this month, will head the list. The 4th, 6th, and 9th places are reserved for a woman, and there are 8 female contenders. And at 6 o'clock tonight, Yisrael Beitenu leader Avigdor Liebman will roll out his party's list, and there will be a lot of new faces on that list, you can be sure. Aaron?
Thanks for that report. And in other news, tensions remain high in Rahat today as a general strike in the Bedouin town entered its 2nd day amid continued violence and protest over last Wednesday's death of 20-year-old Sami Alajar. One man died of a heart attack and 22 others were injured during clashes with security forces at Alajar's funeral last night that erupted when a police van was pelted with rocks after it entered the cemetery. Additional police were deployed to help extricate officers from the vehicle, 2 of whom were injured. An investigation is ongoing into the circumstances of Alajar's death that came during a drug raid. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hosted his Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe at a bilateral business forum in the capital last night. IBA's Alexander Jen has been following that story. Alex?
Yes, Aaron. According to Prime Minister Netanyahu, increased trade with Japan may offset Europe, which is becoming a less reliable trading partner. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has arrived. His goal is to develop stronger economic relations with Israel through enhanced trade, tourism, and business. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been pushing to increase trade between Israel and Asian markets, particularly Japan. It's the 3rd largest market in the world, and in 2013, Israel's exports to Japan comprised a mere 1.3%. Abe arrived in style along with 100 of Japan's top business executives and government officers. He is on the latter part of his tour through the Middle East. Abe has already visited Egypt and Jordan and plans to travel to Lebanon and the West Bank as well. The business forum, held at the Waldorf Astoria in Jerusalem, began with a formal meeting. Then, Netanyahu and his Japanese counterpart took turns speaking on the mutual benefits of their bilateral ties with an emphasis on shared innovations.
Japan is a country of innovation. Israel is a country of innovation. And together we can do a lot more and gain a lot more. Your visit here, Prime Minister, clearly demonstrates your commitment to this idea and your commitment to strengthening the partnership between Israel and Japan in so many areas.
Japan's Abe says Japan and Israel are both countries that do not have that much of natural resources. But what we have is human resources, and also the key word that we share is innovation, and this has been the key for us to open up the future. The 2 prime ministers spent the next part of the forum exploring Israel's new innovations. The hope is that some of these products might be used for Japan's 2020 Summer Olympics. After the exhibitions, Abe headed to the Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum, where he paid tribute to the victims. He laid a wreath at the memorial and gave a speech in the victims' honor. This forum comes after Netanyahu stated he wants Israel to be less dependent on European markets due to the growing concern of anti-Semitism or Islamization in those countries. The most recent of these attacks was the Islamist gunman attack on the kosher supermarket in France, leading to 4 deaths. And the move in the East could also result in a shift to more Israeli trade with China and India, as well as Japan.
Thanks. Very interesting. Thank you, Alex. The biggest challenge facing Jewish students around the world is not anti-Semitism or anti-Zionism, but apathy amongst their peers. So says the chairperson of the World Union of Jewish Students, Andy Gergely, who also told IBA's Aria O'Sullivan that recently spoke to REA that there's a distinction to be made between anti-Semitism on worldwide campuses and being against Israel.
There's definitely a difference. Actually, there was we had our General Assembly, and one of the motions also described it as a difference because there are Jewish students who are anti-Zionist, so I think it's very important to make a difference. But in the big scale of things, in many times, anti-Israel sentiments do translate to anti-Semitism, or at least we see in an anti-Israel rally, we do see sometimes anti-Semitic manifestations.
I'm hearing a lot of reports about the difficulties in being a Jewish student on campus, even in the United States. Do you find is that one of the challenges of WUJS to deal with that?
Absolutely. It's absolutely one of the challenges, and we also heard a lot of things happening after the summer. I think in Israel it was a lot on the news, and as being a European Jew, I'm oftentimes obviously asked the same question: is there actually a future for Jews in Europe? And it is a difficult question. But our union and I strongly believe that there's always been difficult times. It comes in waves, but I think so far the government has been standing, the European government has been standing strongly with the Jewish community and condemned every attack. Most governments condemned every attack against the Jewish community. So I have a strong hope that things will be normal again.
What sort of tools does WUJS give the students when they go back to the universities to cope with anti-Semitism or anti-Israelism, anti-Zionism?
I think what WUJS can do is to give a platform to develop and to run global campaigns and answer globally to certain issues, such as, for instance, Israel Apartheid Week, which will come up in mid-March. Usually it happens in the same time every year, and I'm planning to go to South Africa for Israel Apartheid Week this year and held a session, and we wanted to understand, like a campaigning session, and we wanted to understand what are the big issues that students wanted to run a campaign on, and it was none of them was about anti-Semitism. Some of them was about Israel issues. Most of them was about how to fight apathy among students, how to get people involved. Most people, we think that everything is all about Israel and all about anti-Semitism. Most things about passing your exams, getting your internship, getting a girlfriend, getting a boyfriend. The issues are not that simple as we think. And I think one of the main takeaway I bring with me is how to get people also more involved and care a little more.
A photograph published by Israel's Miss Universe contender Doron Matalon alongside Miss Lebanon, Sally Grage, and 2 other contestants during pageant preparations in Miami is causing quite a stir. Officials in Lebanon are calling for the title to be stripped from their nation's contestant for consorting with the enemy, although she is insisting that the shot was not posed, but that Miss Israel jumped in and snapped a selfie while she was preparing to take a photo with Miss Slovenia and Miss Japan, and then posted it on social media. Doron Matalon has responded by saying that it is a shame that hostility can't be removed from the equation. The Miss Universe pageant will be held on January 25th. In local basketball action, Maccabi Tel Aviv took its 10th straight league win after crushing Hapoel Jerusalem 96-76 at the Menorah Miftachim Arena at Yad Eliyahu last night. It was payback time for Maccabi, avenging the team's record 30-point loss to the Capital Hoopsters during their previous match in November in Jerusalem. Maccabi finished the first quarter 12 points up, but Jerusalem came back to end the first half with a 1-point lead. The second half was all Maccabi with strong defense and aggressive play that ensured the win. 4 Tel Aviv players ended the game in double digits, led by MVP shooting guard Jeremy Pargo, who finished the night with 34 points. After the victory, he spoke with Israel Television sports reporter Hadass Greenberg.
Jeremy, 34 points. Fantastic game for you today.
Appreciate it. I mean, my teammates deserve a lot of credit. You know, we played hard. We had times where we were really down, and, you know, our teammates picked us up at times, and that's what a team's about. You know, we got to play together and win together. It's a good win for us.
It was a sweet revenge for you today from Maccabi after 2 losing to Jerusalem this season.
One thing about that is we wanted to win the game no matter what the score was. They got us pretty good in Jerusalem, but for us to come out and play as hard as we did and as well as we did and defend the way we wanted to, you know, it was big for us. And, you know, I couldn't be more proud of my teammates.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but something changed in you since the Jeremy that we saw in the start of the season and the Jeremy that we see right now.
I actually don't think anything's changed. You know, my team, we're learning each other a lot more. We're playing together a lot better, and, you know, shots are coming, and fortunately for me, my teammates give me the confidence to make them.
Taking a look at local finance, and the shekel today put in a mixed performance while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange were down across the board. Here's a look at the afternoon numbers. The IBA weather team tells us that tomorrow we can expect fair conditions and a slight rise in temperatures to unseasonably high levels. Here's the forecast at home and abroad for the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Laura Cornfield will be here tomorrow to bring you all the latest breaking news. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.